breaking news from And now, breaking news from ABC 13.
Good Sunday morning, everybody. I'm Erica Simon. We are waiting to hear from Houston Police Chief Art Acevedo and Mayor Sylvester Turner and what is expected to be a very significant development when it comes to police shootings in Houston. Mayor Sylvester Turner and Police Chief Art Acevedo are there now. Let's listen in.
Going through some trying times in our nation, and and there's a lot of conversation about what needs to happen at the national level. I want to start off by saying thank you, Mayor Turner. Thank you for being here. Thank you for leading our city. And thank you for being the common effect that you are because of your history of having a welcoming spirit and a history of inclusion and a history of ensuring that we all are Houstonians and we all come together. But we felt we know that there's a big discussion about the 6 officer-involved shootings involving fatalities in the last couple of months, where there's been a lot of outcry in terms of releasing the videos. I've already been very clear as to why I don't believe that prior to the completion of the criminal investigation, we should normally we should not release them. Primarily because we are Houston. We are Harris County, the most diverse county and actually the most diverse big city in the country. We have the most diverse jury pool. We have a police department that is homegrown and is minority majority, like the city that we serve, which is part of the reason I believe that these men and women, they are from the community, they're part of the community, they love this community, and they understand this community, and they have a relationship with this community where we're doing better than other cities. But we needed to put a face on this issue as we move into, I believe, take the opportunity that we have right now in this moment in time because of the way George Floyd was killed at the hands of Minneapolis Police Department, where we know, according to media reports, that department still allowed the manipulation of the carotid or the neck, which I can tell you most departments that I'm aware of, that has not been allowed for a long time, including right here in Houston, where they just passed city ordinance requiring intervention by police officers when they see misconduct. We've required this here in Houston for a long time, and we take action if you do fail to intervene. But I'm going to go over this. Mayor will say comments after the families, and then I want to be real clear. I'm only here for one thing, and that's for this issue involving these families, and so these families can, as stakeholders and as the ones whose loved ones have been taken and whose loved ones have passed and whose loved ones were involved. The Cook family, as you all know, Rosalie Cook, 80-year-old great-grandmother whose life was taken at the Walgreens and when she was stabbed and robbed, and our officer was flagged down by the employees that know him because he goes on a regular basis. And then that same suspect came after him, and we have civilian witnesses that saw him come, the suspect come at him, and that was an officer-involved shooting. They want to talk about their perspective. We have Adrian Medeiros, who you all know was tragically killed in an altercation on the North Freeway on May 8th. His brother Audric, who we spent 3 hours with a couple of weeks ago, who I've gotten to know, and quite frankly, we share a lot of circles, has asked us not to release the video, but after he had asked us to release it before. And it's important to put a face and a perspective that we as human beings need to broaden our field of vision and understand impacts, and understand that once these videos are released, that they go on these websites for generations of families to see, these snuff websites and all these things that go on. And then we have with us Nicholas Chavez, who we know there's a video of the shooting at the end of that incident at 800 Gazin on 421. His wife, Jessica, is here, who wants to speak. And let me just say that out of the others, we've actually talked to Joe Castellanos' family, his mom, Sonia, his brother, who came all the way from Japan, and that was a shooting at 6531 Capridge. And they couldn't make it this morning, but they want to make sure that the community knows they don't want the video released. And so I just want to just say this. We have to have a national conversation. The mayor has announced his task force, the mayor's task force, to, I believe, do two things. Number one, I believe that the mayor is going to be able to gather the information and be able to tell this community and show to this community that from a policy perspective, a training perspective, and an accountability perspective, we're not in a perfect place because the perfection doesn't exist, but we're in a place that is far ahead, far exceeds a lot of other places. So Mayor, I thank you on behalf of the 5,400 sworn and 1,000 support staff, because you are going to be able to show this community through your task force what we do in fact do outside of the emotion that what's going on right now. And the second piece I think the mayor will accomplish because of his leadership is we will be able to identify opportunities to do better. And so we look forward to fully participating with the mayor and that committee. But again, this will be about these families. Do not ask me about anything else because we're going to focus on this issue. It's their moment. They wanted to be here. We have been supporting each other through this. And I want to start with Jessica, who's the widow of Nicholas Chavez, who again was killed. And you all know that there's a disturbing video out there from a cell phone. And I'm going to have her speak first. Jessica, please.
Jessica, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
Let me just say, because this is a tough moment. I think the reason why Jessica is here is that she has asked her, in terms of the release of the video, to honor her request not to. Is that
Not
correct?
to. I do not want to release the video.
And that's the main thing. So, not going to push any further than that.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I share what you told me, what you've told me about your girls? Yeah, let me, if I can just share, because this young lady, we were there that night. Chief Finner and I were there when we saw and extended our condolences that night. And from her perspective, her little daughters, 5 and 4, inadvertently saw news coverage of the video that's already out there. And it's had a profound impact on them. And so she does not want the video released. The other videos released because she's trying to protect her children. And so we are trying to honor that. Obviously, we're going to follow the law. We're going to follow the process. But again, we're chief for everybody. That's the mayor for everybody. We have to keep everybody's perspective. And I just want to say we're still praying for you. And she is going to see the videos as allowed by law, the rest of the videos that we are going to do today. And so, is there anything else you want to say?
That'd be
Okay,
it.
all right, okay. Now, I'd like to just say again to Mr. Medeiros, I think one of the things that I said before, and I'll say again, that we understood and we understand that the community can't understand how a man that's a gospel leader, that is a man of faith, how he ended up in that predicament that night and ended up being shot. But like we said before, and we'll say again, one moment of time in someone's life does not define the entirety of their life. And I've had friends call me from Austin that are family members of the Medeiros, and they, I can tell you, loved him throughout his life, and they loved him in his afterlife. And he's a man from a great family. And tragedy brought me to get to meet Audric, but I want to just say that we stand with him, and I'll tell you that you're making a difference with your leadership. So Audric wanted to come, and again, because people don't want to hear it from us, they need to hear from families and what through their prism of what their feelings are. Audric?
First off, I want to say all honor and glory to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, to the families here. At this moment, it's very hard to be dealing with. On May the 8th, I received a call that I lost my brother. And since that day, it's almost a month away, and not being able to hear from him, not being able to see him, And it's hard for me to even go walk into his house right now. And not being able to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, not being able to talk about the Houston Texans. And it's so hard right now. And going back home, back to Dallas Fort Worth, back and forth, and seeing my grandfather's face, a 90-year-old man, we all he have left at this moment. We all he have left. And he broke down and cried to me right before the funeral, which he wasn't able to go to because he said he don't want to see his grandson like that. He don't want to see his grandson. And even on my way back from Fort Worth, coming back down 290, he said, he just broke down and started crying. He got mad at me because when I made it back to Houston during the rain, he said, man, you didn't call me. Where were you at? And to hear him say that 90-year-old man that's probably been dead 3 times, but still able to have life that God has gave him. Yeah. And I don't want to see my grandson like that. He's processing it the way he want to process it right now. I only have 2 priorities right now. 2 priorities. That's to protect my family and protect my brother's name. And that's what I want to do right now by not letting the video to be released. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. And I'll just address real quickly at the 7400 Scott Street incident that, as you all know, that individual, we released the picture of the exact replica of a 9mm that individual had. The next of kin that we have is Nakia Emmett that I thought was going to come the day that we talked about that incident, and she didn't come, and she still has not come to see it. And then the Castellanos family, I don't know if I mentioned them at 6531 Cabridge. They did come and reviewed everything. Again, they've asked that we not release the video. But there's another perspective that I think is important. The officer-involved shooting at the Walgreens where Mrs. Cook was taken by a suspect in that robbery. We don't have a next of kin there, but we do have a family that lost a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother who's part of those videos, and they wanted to have a word and a say about their perspective about the possibility of their loved ones being out there forever on these websites and when these things get released. So we've got her son here. If you can come up real quick. Sure.
Good afternoon. My name is Chuck Cook. Rosalie Cook was my mom. She's my wife's mother-in-law and my brother's mother. She's the grandmother to my grandchildren and the great-grandmother to my grandkids. She was a wonderful woman. We laid her to rest on Wednesday, and we celebrated her legacy, and we want to leave it just like that. As this gentleman said, I don't need my children or my grandchildren seeing a video of their grandmother or great-grandmother laying on the concrete, wounded and dying. I don't need my children to relive that horror. We want to remember her just as we laid her to rest on Wednesday. What I am interested in is supporting the police. The police run a very transparent organization under the leadership of Art Acevedo. He's called in the FBI when cases seem suspect. I trust him explicitly, but what I do, since I get to talk about my feelings, is I want to see the change affected in this catch and release policy that underlined the police department and ultimately ended up killing my mother. My mother would be alive today without that policy being in effect. I stand here before you today outraged, absolutely outraged. And so I'm here to support the police. I'm also here to affect change that brings the safety of our citizens to the forefront. Thank you.
Let me just say to all of these family members who are here that we continue to pray for them, and we're asking the city to lift these family members up because they have experienced what no one else has experienced. They have lost loved ones, not just for today or next month, but for the rest of their lives. So we want to lift them up, want to continue to pray for them, for all of the family members. For them to be here, as you can imagine, takes a great deal of strength and courage, and quite frankly, if you allow me to say this, love for their city. It takes a great deal. We want to be transparent. And that's important. I want to say that.
All right,
As we
everyone,
move
you
forward
are
and
listening to
we look
Houston Mayor
at,
Sylvester Turner at a news
reforms,
conference
things
with
that we can
Houston
put in
Police
place,
Department. They are
we want to
addressing
be
the numerous
transparent.
deadly
And it's
police-involved
important to
shootings that
take
we've had in
into
the
account,
city over the
the
past
wishes
couple of
family
months.
members,
They have some family members
their
there
requests,
of
their
some of the people who
desires.
have been killed in those shootings.
I've had
A
an
lot of
opportunity,
questions need to
I
be
think, of
answered
the
according
last,
to the public, and they're hoping to
6
do so right now.
fatal
We're going to
shootings,
jump off of
to
TV and
look at, I
continue
wanna
this
say
news
4 or
conference
5
and this
of the
coverage
video,
on abc13.com.
footage, myself, taking the time to sat down, listened to it, watched it, but it's important to get to take into account the desires of the family members. And as we work through our policies and reforms that we will be putting in place, it's deciding when to release and when not to release. Because number one, all of these matters will be fully investigated, so that it doesn't preclude any of that. But we are trying to strike a very delicate balance, and the wishes of the family members, the ones who have lost loved ones, weighs heavily on what we decide to do. Now, having said that, it is good to have body cameras and the footage for all investigators and others to take a look at, and they can look at it. So that's important. There will be times, for example, as we go forward, that there may be family members who say, release the footage. And we'll certainly weigh that into account. But a part of, for example, of the task force that I am putting together is to try to make that, set that criteria of when to and when not to. But over the last several weeks, we've heard people saying why we are not releasing. And sometimes in the absence of hearing and seeing the family members themselves, it may seem as though it's our wish, or we are doing it. But it's important to hear and see them. So I simply want to thank them for coming forward. We all want to do better. Let me underscore that. There's no perfect system, but we all want to do better. We all want to make sure that we are taking the necessary steps to garner the support of the public and to maintain the support and the confidence of the public. And a part of that is being transparent. Okay? And then so the question is, when do you release, when do you not? And we're working through that process. But in these, as it relates to these particular families, and the Castellano, the Yeager family, who's not here, and the footage that I've seen, and based on their requests, they specifically have indicated that they did not want the footage released. But that does not mean that people who are looking into this and investigating these matters are not seeing the footage. The good news is that we have it. We have it, and that's the good news, and it will be used appropriately. So that's the point that I want to make. Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think the mayor, there are a lot of community members that will be seeing and that do see the footage in all officer-involved shootings. That includes the members of the grand jury. That includes investigators and deputy district attorneys from Harris County. That includes when they call for them, the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office. when they call, because a lot of people don't realize they're actually monitoring all officer-involved shootings, and that ultimately includes a criminal jury when the charges occur. Then internally, because there's a lot of again, people talking about citizens review panels and oversight, we have civilian citizens that actually look at all the evidence, that are members of this community, of this diverse community, look at all the evidence, including videos. And although they don't have subpoena power, they don't have it because they don't need a subpoena. When they've asked for additional investigation, or they've asked for additional questions, or they've had questions, we've actually, as the chief that answers to the mayor, and these are his appointees, we honor those requests. What they have is the power of the office of the mayor, who put them there for a reason, and that's to review all the evidence and actually to make disciplinary recommendations to the chief, and actually to ask, after they review all the evidence, for more investigation if required, and that has happened. And so I'm just going to close by saying that our hearts go out to all families. It doesn't matter whether an officer-involved shooting is justified or objectively reasonable or legal or not. When a life is taken, we should all be in prayer for the family whose loved one was taken, whether by the police or at the hands of a criminal. And so I'm going to close by just saying a couple things in Spanish. Do you all mind standing up here in Spanish, or you don't have to? Or?
Go right ahead.
Okay. En español estamos aquí porque sabemos que hay muchas personas en la comunidad que están hablando sobre los 6.
Okay, that is Houston Police Chief Art Acevedo. He, the Houston Police Department, and Mayor Sylvester Turner just wrapped up a news conference to talk about transparency within the city and within the department when it comes to the numerous deadly police-involved shootings that we've had in the past couple of months. If you've been on social media lately, if you've talked to friends, then you've probably seen somebody who has demanded answers from the department. People have been calling for the release of body cam footage and dash cam footage in these cases. Mayor Turner and Chief Acevedo did have family members of some of those people who were killed up there with them today, and they let them speak and then also reemphasize that some of them did not want the video released. In some cases, some didn't want their little children to have to see that footage on TV. Others didn't want their family members to be remembered as their last moment in that light, being killed for everyone to see. So there's still a lot of things that have to be answered within the department, but this is the first step, some would say, in trying to have a news conference and start that discussion. We want to also add that this all comes after our Thursday night town hall, Police and Communities of Color. Our own Melanie Lawson and Chauncey Glover led this discussion about relations between the Black community and police departments and some of the distrust there from the Black community's perspective in terms of them feeling brutalized often. So after that discussion, we now have this news conference. So the chief did speak just a little bit during that town hall and kind of foreshadowed about what was to come today. They talked about some families not wanting the video released. They talked about not wanting to necessarily compromise some of the cases going forward in the judicial system. But here we are. We also know that Mayor Turner this week announced a task force that would allow people outside of the department to take a look at some of these cases, take a look at the video, and then make some decisions from there. So a couple big steps have come in the last week. And so we, of course, have not heard from every single family involved in those 6 incidents, but there was at least 3 families to my count who was up there today. So we're going to continue to stay on this news conference. Chief Acevedo speaking in Spanish right now. We're trying to wait to see if he's going to jump back to English. But of course, we've got all the information for you that you need online, including a replay of that all-important town hall discussion that jumped off some must-needed information. All right, I'm hearing from a producer that they're taking questions. Let's jump back in.
All the families. Mario, I just said I'm not taking questions, so you can ask them, but we're leaving as soon as we're done at this mic. Let me just, we're not here for you, we're here for these families. Let me just say one last thing on behalf of the families. They have made their statements and they want to be left alone by the media. They want to be able to grieve with their family members. They want to be left alone. So please honor that. They've said what they have to say, and I want to just thank you all for being here. Thank you all.
Chief, we were told by your department there were going to be question. They wanted the topic to be.
Okay, there it is. Chief Acevedo just cut the news conference. He says he is done saying what he has to say. The families of those who've been killed in these incidents, they said that they've said what they'd have to say, and at this point just want to be able to grieve, be left alone by the media. So there weren't any questions answered by Chief Acevedo. He just left the podium. We'll have a recap of what happened today and all of the officer-involved shootings on our website, abc13.com. Thanks for tuning in to the special news conference.
This has been breaking news from ABC 13. For more information, head to abc13.com or open our ABC 13 News app.